Aloha, my friends, and welcome to Mu Rose Temple, the podcast, where we discuss divine feminine awakening, embodiment, and activation. I am your host, Celeste Glus, and the creatrix behind the School of Feminine Initiatory Arts. Welcome in. Aloha, my friends, and welcome back. Today, I'm sharing with you my Dis-Embodiment Journey. And I was inspired to share this because lately I've been talking so much about embodiment, and this topic of embodiment has come in so strongly as I continue to further elaborate the course material for the school. I realize, embodiment is absolutely foundational. And what are we as perhaps women who are on this divine feminine path or called to sit with, explore, experience, and expand our perception of the divine feminine within us and through us? How are we seeing embodiment? And that to me is super fascinating because of my experience with movement and embodiment, and today's topic, my disembodiment. So usually something that we experience in its opposite ends up being our medicine for ourselves and for those around us. And it's starting to make so much sense why I'm so passionate about embodiment. So there are two reasons why I want to share this with you today. One, to draw a link between this heavy focus that I have around this committed, structured ability to show up for our bodies and move against gravity. And I'll talk specifically about why that's an actual component and what's currently happening right now with the energetics of the earth, of the universe, of this collective experience that we're all living through. So really practical. Yesterday, I'm sitting just working on this course content, and all of a sudden this huge magnetic wave comes in. And if you're not familiar with what a magnetic wave is, there's magnetic waves that come in. It's like magnetic pulses that come in through the sun. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail. This is a lot of the information that's shared inside the Divine I Am Awakening to Ascension. So it's kind of understanding the details behind how, when we talk about light quotient and we talk about activating our light body, we're not just saying that as if it's some kind of ethereal experience. This is a real thing that's happening and it is actually measured, and it is causing physical impacts on this reality, on our day-to-day experiences. So if that's something that interests you, definitely check out Divine I Am, which is part of the Light Bearer path. So yesterday, coming back to it, I was sitting down on my computer, and a huge wave of magnetic pull just like moves through me. And what happens with that is that your field, we have an electromagnetic field. This is our part of our energy field. It's kind of like somebody punches that energy field. And so what often happens is you can experience a sense of very strong vertigo. Now, this has been happening for many, many years. And it'll just come randomly, but it will come on a very subtle level. Now, what's happening lately with a lot of these portals is that the light quotient and the energy that's coming onto this planet is becoming very strong. And the stronger energy field that we can hold, the more magnetic shifts we can hold within our bodies, hence kind of changing that ripple effect in the life that we walk through. I hope this is landing. So we're technically like a big electromagnetic walking blob, if you will. And so I was creating some course content and looking up how we're just 99.9% empty space. No big deal. So that just goes to show that the amount of energy that we are is far beyond our logical, comprehensive understanding. So the magnetic wave comes and I ground, I center, I breathe, I move through that energy, and then it comes again. And then it comes again. And that has not happened before at that level and that strength. So I was taken back by that experience, and it lasted a few minutes. And in that moment, I realized, wow, if somebody is living this right now and has no idea about what we just talked about with the magnetic waves and the light quotient coming in through the sun and how that's affecting our cells, our DNA, our consciousness, if you've never heard that before and you can't make a connection between that and the shifting and the movement of the reality before you, you might really think that there's something legitimately wrong with you. And I realized that, of course, the technique is to come into the center of your body, to expand the breath, and to do all of these exercises that we go through in Divine I Am and in the coursework. And that's when I realized that, I need to share my Dis-Embodiment journey. Because as a matter of fact, for many years, I was living that at a much more subtle level, actually. So my body actually couldn't hold what it held yesterday. And so it's kind of like you're always tested. You're a rubber band. And as the stronger rubber band you become, the more elasticity you can hold, the more pressure you can withstand. And so in the beginning, it's like you're very, if you could imagine, like a thin rubber band, and you can only be stretched so far energetically and consciously because you're still kind of learning how to stand on your own 2 feet, quote unquote, in terms of the energy and light body. So let me share with you my disembodiment journey, because I think that this might help understand where this is coming from. But not only that, maybe where there are parts of your life that you can either reflect on, you can see that there may be similarities to your experience, or perhaps you know people around you that might be experiencing these things and you realize, oh yeah, there's something you actually can do to strengthen your energy field, to embody this light that is coming in, and to hold more of that shift that we are inevitably being asked to hold, because these waves will only come in stronger. It's not like they're going to get lighter. So the stronger you can withhold within your body and within your light field, the more energetic, let's say, I don't like to use this word, but like the energetic upgrade or the shifting or the calibration, the recalibration of your energy field and your light body, that can happen. So in the beginning of this awakening process for me, I knew nothing about any of this. And for many years, if you have heard about my book, I Am Lemuria, this is where that story comes from, is that I was just randomly taken into very deep states of meditation for hours and hours and hours on end. Only now am I able to actually understand what was happening and articulate what the purpose of that was, what kind of initiations were happening at that time. But in that moment in time, for a long time, for quite a few years, I felt and I was living in an almost handicapped experience of life. I would randomly move into heightened states of nausea to the point of body shutdown, and I would be having to go into meditative states. Now, if you've never experienced that before, what happens is when there's very strong portals like the equinoxes and the solstices and numerological alignments with the stars and the planets, our bodies hold that information. This is why I'm so passionate about making that connection on a practical level, because in the beginning, this stuff was so impractical for me. It felt so non-human, you know? And so what happens is the digestive system shuts down, the nausea begins to heighten to very, very uncomfortable levels. And you basically have to close your eyes and be in darkness. And so I worked a lot with sound those first beginning years. I still do, but those years I didn't know what I was doing. And I would immediately go into sacred sound meditations and go deep into traveling different dimensions and universes and things like that. And I did that for a very, very long time. Now, you could imagine that just from that small amount of information I just shared, that's ludicrous, right? Like, sometimes I question why my husband stayed with me. It's like, how did you live with me? Looking back, most of the day I was in meditation, and when I was out of meditation, I was so disembodied. And this is where we get into the stuff I want to really share with you guys. After a certain amount of time inside of meditation, and if you're going into deeper states of meditation, which is something that we do in Magnify Your Radiance, is we're intentionally stepping into meditation and we're creating the environment so that the body, mind, and spirit can drop in quickly. And if you do that and stay in there for a prolonged period of time, your brain and your energy field begin to shift at very deep, profound levels. So when you come back into this physical reality, those two realities will obviously be in shock with one another. They're going to clash because you just came in from one dimension and now you're in this physical reality. And that's a huge gap between those two realities. So the disembodiment at that point of my life was not understanding how to bridge that gap between highly deep meditative states and accessing these multidimensional experiences and opening my eyes and walking in this world, through this world, with that connection in heart. And that created a tremendous amount of friction in my life, of course, you could imagine, which I'm not going to go into right now. But needless to say, my body became very weak. I was very much at the peak of my fitness career and then quickly came out of that because I could no longer withstand it showing up so much in the physical that I had to pull back a lot. And of course, my physical body became weak. My spine began to have some issues. Like there was all these things that started to happen. And the process of embodiment, and this is what I'm really passionate about, is bridging the gap and realizing that those deep interdimensional states of consciousness are meant to be lived with eyes open and feet on the ground. And as we bridge the gap more and more and more, we hold that essence within our hearts and we become that essence in living form. And we cook and we work out and we make love and we work and we create and we play and we laugh from that place of expanded interdimensional awareness. Now, that process of bridging the gap has been one of my biggest hurdles in life, and realizing how initiation, mentorship, and lineages has been the reason why that bridge has been gapped. And hence, I believe that this is a huge foundational part of the Sophia School being birthed, the School of Feminine Initiatory Arts being birthed, because bridging that gap was beyond my wildest dreams. I never thought I would be able to do that. And so now coming back and realizing they are actually one and the same, and our job as awakened beings, as conscious men and women, as beings who are here to create an impact and light up the world and create a legacy for future generations, that is one of our main sacred responsibilities, to bridge the gap between those worlds. And so now my devotion to movement, my workouts, those are moments that I am committed to bridging that gap. And funny enough, when I'm in a very deep workout, or if you've taken class with me, like I really begin to channel and move so much creative energy through me that it's like these worlds can actually become one in that state of hyper flow. But let's just put that aside. The fact that we need to start to redefine what workouts mean, because what we are here to do is to create enough pressure and resistance to our physical bodies so that we can become stronger and hold more of this light. So this comes back to the original story that I told you about yesterday. Holding the stronger magnetics that are coming in at this time requires, there's no like, maybe, no, I can get away with it. No, it requires bone density and muscle density and your ability to have deep body awareness. And that comes from repetitive devotional movement, specifically under resistance training, because what we do with resistance training is we are training our bodies to increase the amount of oxygen that we're moving into our blood vessels, into our muscles. And we're training our bodies to be okay under not only uncomfortable situations, but situations that can really throw us off center, like what happened yesterday. So now when I move and I work out and I do bar and I lift weights, I'm not doing it from a place of, I just need to work out and be fit. Although that feels good. I love working out and I love feeling fit. I'm not sure who doesn't. But there's this much deeper understanding of why I even get up in the morning to do that, which is, if I'm not strengthening my body, I'm inevitably becoming more disembodied because I'm committed to holding more light in this life. And what happened yesterday is just a proof and a reminder that the light that is coming in and that we are being asked to hold is becoming stronger and stronger and stronger every day. And if our bodies don't become stronger and stronger and stronger every day, then they must be getting weaker, because you can't just become stagnant. You can't just be in the middle and not become stronger but not become weaker. You're just like still. That doesn't exist. Nothing in existence is stagnant. There's no such thing. So I wanted to share that with you in case you have had activations or spiritual experiences. I know that there's so many spiritual experiences now that are becoming so mainstream, and a lot of times those experiences can leave you very much disembodied, meaning you feel disconnected to your life. You feel like the day-to-day things are not important, like they're not part of, like they're just kind of human. A lot of the mindset when I felt very disembodied is this human experience. Like, yeah, it's just a human journey, and X, Y, and Z is not important. Or I had a lot of difficulty consistently showing up and taking on responsibility, and even doing simple things like keeping my home clean and showing up to a job consistently. Like, these things were a legitimate, difficult experience for me. And I believed that they were just part of the human story and they weren't that important because all of these multidimensional realms existed and I was traveling those. And just this whole experience felt very disembodied. I didn't really care for my body much. It wasn't that important. I was completely unaware of my womb. Definitely didn't care about my menstrual cycle. Like, all of these things that I'm so obsessed about right now were not part of my life. And I think it's important to just take a check-in and figure out, what parts of my life am I checking out? Where am I creating a gap between my spiritual, energetic process, evolution, consciousness, however you want to call it or refer to it, and my physical experience, my physical environment, my relationships, my day-to-day routines and responsibilities? I think that was the biggest gap for me. And when we are feeling disembodied, at least in that activated spiritual journey, is that grounded, daily, disciplined, routine, responsible. These are the things that are required on the human journey, right? We have to have a job to make money, right? We need to support ourselves. We need to be a part of our family unit. We need to be a part of some kind of community. We need to be creating something and being of service of something. Like, maybe it's not black and white, like I just said it, but there's some sort of receive and give, show up and support, right? Have responsibility. And so where in our lives are we having difficulty with that? A lot of times, maybe it's not in our career or money, but maybe it's in actually taking care of our bodies, which I see a lot with women. Like, genuinely being in a place where I can devote myself to making sure that my body is well. And that doesn't mean making excuses for myself for actually not showing up for my body, because I see that a lot. And that's a big part of the issue with the disembodiment of women, is that we receive these spiritual lessons and have them distorted in our field. Oh no, I'm just activating my feminine. I'm going in flow. I'm definitely not working out. It's like, well, who said that that's feminine? Who said that you are not required to show up in devotion to your body and making sure that your body is well and safe and strong and nourished? And then outside of the disciplinary responsibility of our bodies, take that approach to every single aspect of your life. Because if you're listening to this, there's something in your life that you are finding a gap in. Maybe it's the inability to be completely honest with your partner. Maybe it's this sensation that you have around your friends or your children, that there's something that's inauthentic within you, or trying to do something that doesn't align. Or maybe there's something with your work or the way that you're showing up in the world. Something has a gap. And that gap actually lives inside of your body. And this is where we're going to start to close up this conversation. And this is where it all comes to the disembodiment journey, which brings us into the embodiment journey. How is that showing up in your physical body? For me, my physical body was becoming weak. I was having spinal weakness, like literally weakness in my upper spine. and I could feel a tremendous amount of pain in my joints. Like there were things that were happening in my physical body that were telling me, hey, listen, like this is not healthy for you. Like there's something in your life that is off. Outside of the fact that I was completely disconnected to what my menstrual cycle meant in my life and how to live in a cyclical fashion. But we're not even going to touch that subject right now. So yeah, that's your homework for today if you're still with me at this time. Is there a gap anywhere in your body? And is there something in your body that's being reflected to you that perhaps you see it as, oh, it's just an injury. Oh, it's just a kink. Oh, it's just my digestive system. Oh, it's just my acid reflux, or all these things that happen to our physical bodies as a reaction to our inability to see where there's actually a gap in our lives. I'm not saying your acid reflux is related to, this gap. What I'm saying is start to make a connection between how your body is showing up in this physical reality, how you're feeling inside your body, and your journey with the embodiment of a higher light, the embodiment of the spiritual process, the embodiment of your highest feminine expression. And that highest feminine expression is always shifting and rebirthing itself. Yeah, and we'll be talking. I can't wait to start the podcast series on all of the different initiatory paths, and we'll get to that. But I really wanted to drive this point home about embodiment and what does it look like when we're disembodied, and what can that show up like in our lives, and why is it so important for us to be able to be aware of that. If you have hang-ups with food or with money or with sex or with, there's all these little hang-ups that we have that we think that they're just hang-ups. In actuality, there's a disembodiment of nourishment. We are not feeling nourished in our bodies. There is a gap somewhere. And our job is to figure out, where is that gap and what can I do about it? So I hope that this has sparked a little bit of insight for you and in your embodiment journey. And I do feel like this embodiment journey continues, because with every day and every workout, my workouts are completely transforming every day. And I'm going so much deeper because as I strengthen and really focus on different kinds of movements and exercises and challenge my own mind and body to see what's possible, I start to notice where I immediately start to tighten, or where I immediately start to have little aches and pains. And I'm like, oh, this is interesting. What is this part of my body telling me? So you start to create this communication relationship with your body. And that's a beautiful thing, because your brain is no longer wired to think, oh, there's something wrong with me. Oh, my neck is tight. I'm stressed. No, that's not true. What's actually going on in your life that's creating this tension in your neck? X, Y, and Z. Yeah, that continues. So I will leave this conversation here. If you are inspired to take a journey with your feminine and explore the edges of what this feminine expression and activation can look like for you, and what initiatory path you're actually being called to embody. Because it's one thing we think we might be in one initiatory path, but a lot of times what happens is we're in another one and we desire to be in a different one, or in the one that we feel like we're called to. So I'm really excited to share with you that I will be hosting a retreat on the west side of Oahu. And this will be a weekend-long retreat where we will explore the different initiatory paths, and we will be doing some work around what parts of us are yearning to be looked at and worked through and expressed and liberated. And then we'll be stepping into that. We'll be using all of my favorite divine feminine modalities like sound and energy and movement and working with the stars and the land. So there's all this beautiful magic that we'll be incorporating. We'll be embodying all of this magic. And we're going to be working through these initiatory paths. And we'll be stepping into the essence that calls us most for this next phase of our lives. And this will be the weekend before this solstice. So September 16th and 17th on Oahu. And I will put the link below. So I'd love for you to join us if you feel called. And if not, I'm sure we will connect soon. Until next time. Mwah. Thank you for being here with me today. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and definitely check out the links below to learn more about the School of Feminine Initiatory Arts, or check us out on Instagram at Mu Rose Temple or lemuria.rose.temple. Until next time.